All right, Jay, you get to call it to order.
All right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the November 16th, 2023 meeting of the City of Lawrence Historic Resources Commission. Shall we begin with a roll call vote? Lynn, it's been too long since I've chaired a meeting, so I could use some guidance. I will read the names of commissioners in the order that they appear on my Zoom screen. Commissioner Hawley is present. Commissioner Klein?
Commissioner Klein, present.
Commissioner Johnson?
Commissioner Johnson here.
Commissioner Ezell?
Commissioner Ezell here.
Commissioner Meyer?
Here.
And we have a quorum with that. Lynn, do we need to read those not present?
No, but Avery gives her spiel now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to the November 16th Historic Resources Commission meeting. My name is Avery Kerner and with me is Lynn Braddock-Zollner, the Historic Resources Administrator. Together we will work alongside the Vice Chair to facilitate the meeting proceedings. Before we begin, I have just a few reminders to share with everyone. Tonight's meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. For those who are attending the meeting virtually, please remember to mute yourself when you are not actively speaking to help minimize distractions. When the Vice Chair calls for public comment on an item, anyone attending in person may approach the podium to speak. If you are attending the meeting virtually and would like to provide public comment on an item, please use the raise your hand feature to be called upon. We also ask that everyone state their name before they speak to ensure that everyone is able to follow along. And with that, I'll turn the meeting back over to the Vice Chair.
Thank you, Avery. And Avery, I would just reiterate, I thank you in advance for your graciousness as coaching me through my Robert's Rules of Order have been forgotten. Moving on to the first item, A, communications, receive communications from other commissions. Lynn, do you want to brief us on that?
You did have a communication that staff inadvertently left out of last month's packet. It's from Kerry Altenbernd, and it was about the Stone Pier. That is actually an agenda item for you later this evening.
Thank you. And can we, if anyone doesn't have any immediate questions, let's discuss that later in the agenda item. Moving on to item 2, disclosure of ex-parte communications. Does anyone have any ex-parte communications they wish to disclose at this time? Hearing none, moving on to item 3, declaration of abstentions for specific agenda items by the commissioners. Does anyone have any abstentions that they need to make? Seeing no heads move. Moving on to item A4, committee reports.
We did have a committee, the Architectural Review Committee, meet to discuss an item that's your item number 1 on your public hearing items. So it would be appropriate to discuss that at that agenda item.
Perfect. Moving on to item B, consent agenda. B1, action summaries. Consider approval of the action summaries from the October 19th HRC Commission meeting. Has everyone had a chance to review those? If so, I would entertain any motion to approve.
This is Commissioner Ezell. I move that we approve the administrative approvals.
Commissioner Ezell has made a motion. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Klein, seconds.
We have a motion and a second by Commissioner Klein. Again, we'll go through a roll call vote. Commissioner,
This is Chair This is Commissioner Meyer. Did you mean the action summaries?
I think Commissioner Meyer is cutting out, but I think what she is saying is that
Sorry, my
we're
internet
approving
appears
the
to be
action summary,
terrible.
actually, not the administrative approvals.
Since there's a motion on the floor and a second, and it's ready for a roll call vote, you can go ahead and take action on the administrative
Ah, okay.
approvals and come back to the action summary.
Very good. Okay.
Just to confirm, the motion Commissioner Ezell made is for the administrative approvals?
That's correct.
Is that was your intent? All right. Forgiveness, all much appreciated. Commissioner Hawley votes aye.
Sorry, I'm back.
Welcome back. Commissioner Klein?
Commissioner Klein votes aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Commissioner Johnson, aye.
Commissioner Ezell?
Commissioner Ezell, aye.
Commissioner Meyer?
She frozen.
Aye.
There we go.
Great, the ayes have it. Motion approves. Let us correct my error and go back to approval of the action summaries. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Same question, right item.
Commissioner Johnson, I move for approval of the action summaries from the October 19th, 2023 Historic Resources Commission meeting.
We have a motion by Commissioner Johnson. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Ezell, I second.
Commissioner Ezell has a second. Again, based on the order of members I see on my Zoom screen, Commissioner Hawley votes aye. Commissioner Klein?
Aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Commissioner Johnson, aye.
Commissioner Ezell?
Commissioner Ezell, aye.
Commissioner Meyer? While Commissioner Meyer gets her internet worked out, can the motion go ahead and carry? We have a majority, I believe, quorum. So motion carries. Moving on to item C, public comment. Is there any general public comment to be heard at this time? All right, moving on to public hearing items. Let's begin with D1, DR 200330627 Louisiana Street.
Okay, good evening, Commissioners. This item is for 627 Louisiana Street, which was before you at last month's meeting and forwarded to the ARC to address the chimney on the northeast portion of the structure. The proposed project is located in the environs of two locally listed properties and in the Old West Lawrence Historic District, which is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. The map on screen shows the location of the project at 627 Louisiana Street, which is outlined in light blue in the center of the screen. The two locally listed properties and their environs are in dark blue, and then the Old West Lawrence Historic District is in red. This project is for the rehabilitation of the existing accessory structure to turn it into an art studio. The accessory structure is located to the south of the primary structure, and it faces Louisiana Street to the east. The proposed improvements to the structure include installing a wood-burning fireplace and chimney, which would be atypical for structures of this type in the historic district. These are images of the accessory structure to be rehabilitated. Again, the east elevation in the top left corner is the elevation that would be most visible from Louisiana Street. These are renderings of the east elevation of the structure. On the left side of the screen is what was initially proposed by the applicant, and on the right-hand side of the screen is the revised rendering that was reviewed and approved by the ARC. As you can see, the overall massing of the chimney has been reduced from the original plans. However, the chimney would still be visible from the public right-of-way along Louisiana Street. And again, for comparison, to show the changes between the initial and the revised renderings that were submitted, the initial renderings of the northeast and northwest elevations of the structure are on the left-hand side of the screen, and to the right are the revised renderings, which illustrate the reduced size of the chimney. Staff is of the opinion that the fireplace and chimney are not appropriate for a structure of this type in the National Historic District and recommends approval or removal of the fireplace and chimney from the project. And with that, I will turn the floor back over to the Vice Chair.
Thank you. Is the applicant present? And if so, would you like to speak?
Hi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Roy.
Oh, yeah, hi. Yeah, so like she mentioned from our last meeting, we've reduced the fireplace footprint from basically 28 inches by 60 inches down to 26 by 26 square. So I think it's significantly reduced the bulk of the original design in a positive way, and we'd be grateful for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. And do we have any public comment relating to this item?
Doesn't look like we have anyone on Zoom either.
None on Zoom, none on person? All right, hearing none. I can report that I was part of some of the discussions regarding this item, and I'll only speak for myself that I believe we saw the before and after, that it moved close enough in the right direction that I feel good about it being approved. I think it could sail through if it were just a simple pipe. But this is, I think the changes were significant enough to make it a non-dominant element, and with its setback from the other building, I think it passes the tests for me. But I had any additional comments from Lynn or discussion? Any? Just a second. Bear with me, I'll make a motion if I can find it. Oh, right there, up on the screen that I'm not looking at. I would move, this is Commissioner Hawley, I would move that in accordance, I'd move to find, I'm not going to read all of that. For the reasons I've made, I would move to approve the state law review. Lynn, is that an adequate motion?
Yes.
Commissioner Klein seconds.
Take a roll call vote. Again, based on the order of my Zoom screen, Commissioner Hawley is going to vote aye. Commissioner Klein?
Commissioner Klein, aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Commissioner Johnson, aye.
Commissioner Ezell?
Commissioner Ezell, aye.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
And would anyone care to make a second motion? If not, I will just go ahead and move per Chapter 22 and the verbiage we can see to move for a certificate of appropriateness be issued for this. Any seconds?
Commissioner Johnson, second.
Commissioner, we have a motion on the floor, and Commissioner Johnson has seconded. Commissioner Hawley votes aye. Commissioner Klein?
Commissioner Klein votes aye.
Commissioner Johnson?
Commissioner Johnson, aye.
Commissioner Ezell?
Commissioner Ezell, aye.
Commissioner Meyer?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Good luck with your project.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You too. Moving on to item 2, L2300248 Stone Pier for historic Kansas River Bridge.
button at the bottom.
Got it. One day I'll get this down pat.
So close. Perfect.
As Commissioner Hawley mentioned, this is L-23-00248. It's to hold a public hearing for consideration of placing the old Kansas River Bridge Stone Pier, generally located to the northwest of the City Hall building at 6 East 6th Street on the Lawrence Register of Historic Places. This project was nominated by Kerry Altenbernd for the Lawrence Douglas County Community Remembrance Project Coalition. I'm just going to say that this was a really good nomination. Staff kept asking for more information because it is unique. We've never had an object being requested for listing before, and I will say the applicant did an excellent job of providing information for staff to be able to recommend for this project. Based on the applicant's information, it's likely that the Stone Pier was part of the construction of the circa 1870 bridge that crossed the Kansas River at Lawrence. The little blue dot in the middle is the Stone Pier. The blue circle you see are the environs that are proposed for the bridge. And we had fun getting the legal description for a stone pier. This is a stone pier looking south from the riverbed in February 2022 when they were doing all the work on the dam. This is the best photograph we have of the pier. Then quickly showing you some historic photos that were provided by the applicant. The original bridge in 1863. The 1917 bridge. This is one of the reasons we think this was likely part of that 1870 bridge. This shows the bridge construction and the dam construction. And if you notice, the stone piers are very similar to the existing pier that's under review for this evening. This is an undated photograph showing the stone piers under the bridge. That's the 1870 bridge. This is the first image of the stone pier. The applicant says the date's unknown, but it was prior to 1886, and the big arrow shows the stone pier underneath the bridge. And staff had asked for confirmation that the stone pier was part of the 1870 bridge and not part of that 1917 bridge. And the applicant provided this photo that shows both bridges side by side. As I mentioned, the 1917, a new concrete bridge was built just to the west of the 1870 bridge. The 1917 bridge was demolished in the 1970s for a new bridge, and an additional bridge was constructed in 1980 to create the configuration that exists today. The historic structure is likely a remnant of the 1870 historic Kansas River Bridge. As a support pier of a bridge that spanned the Kansas River, it maintains sufficient integrity of location. It does not possess architectural style, but it is an example of a utilitarian object that was once an integral part of a historic bridge. It is in fair condition, but does need some repair to maintain the structure. This is also being nominated because of a very significant event that is associated with the circa 1870 bridge. On June 3rd, 1882, the body of David Bowson, thank you, Kerry, was discovered in the Kansas River below the bridge. Authorities concluded that he had been murdered on the riverbank and thrown into the river. It was reported that Margaret Sis Vinegar had lured him to the riverbank so that her accomplices, Isaac King and George Robertson, could rob him. Other accounts said that he was sexually assaulting Margaret Vinegar when King and Robertson happened upon them and stopped the assault. King and Robertson were living at the home of Peter Vinegar, and he too was arrested. David was white, and King and Robertson and Margaret Vinegar and Peter Vinegar were black. On June 10th, a mob forcibly removed the 3 black men from the Douglas County Jail. It was reported that the mob took a vote on whether to also take Margaret Vinegar, but she was spared by the margin of a single vote. The 3 men were dragged to the center of the Kansas River Bridge and lynched by ropes tied to the bridge trusses. No one was ever charged with the crime. A marker located to the west of City Hall was installed in June of 2022 that acknowledges this event. There are 9 criteria provided in Section 22-403 for the review and determination of qualification for a landmark on the Lawrence Register of Historic Places. Staff is of the opinion that this Stone Pier meets the criteria 1 and 2 of that section. Criteria 1 is its character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, or cultural characteristics of the community, county, state, or nation. The Stone Pier is a remnant of the circa 1870 historic bridge that crossed the Kansas River. It is part of the transportation history of Lawrence. Criteria 2 is its location as a site of a significant local, county, state, or national event. The Stone Pier is the only extant tangible element of the circa 1870 bridge that was in existence when the lynching of Isaac King, George Robertson, and Peter Vinegar took place in 1882. The 250-foot environs is shown here, and the area primarily consists of open space with 2 structures with a line of sight to the pier. The open space character of the environs is important. Because of the location is unique, all projects that require a city building permit will be automatically approved administratively. Projects for Robinson Park will be automatically approved administratively. Building permits for City Hall will be automatically approved administratively. Only new construction or demolition that may impact the pier will require review by the Historic Resources Commission. Demolition or new construction should take into consideration the condition of the pier and how to stabilize it if demolition or new construction takes place. Staff recommends the historic Kansas River Bridge Pier, generally located to the northwest of City Hall, for designation as a landmark on the Lawrence Register of Historic Places pursuant to Criteria 1 and Criteria 3 as described in Section 22-403. If the Historic Resources recommends this property for local nomination, the Commission should adopt Resolution 2023-02 for recommendation to be submitted to the City Commission for designation as a landmark. In addition to the resolution, the Commission should direct staff to prepare a report to accompany the resolution, including the criteria set forth in Section 22-404.2, 1 through 7. Staff recommends the following for the report to the City Commission. Explanation of significance or lack of significance of the nominated landmark as it relates to the criteria for designation. The Stone Pier is significant for its association with the transportation history of Lawrence and its association with the lynching that took place on the bridge in 1882. Explain the integrity or lack of integrity of the nominated landmark. The structure retains integrity of location. Because it is likely a remnant of the historic 1870 bridge, it does not have architectural merit. However, it is representative of bridge supports of the era. The pier is in fair physical condition. In the case of a nominated landmark found to meet the criteria for designation, the significant exterior architectural features of the nominated landmark that should be protected or the original stone masonry should be protected. Types of construction, alteration, demolition, and removal other than those requiring a building or demolition permit, alterations to the stone masonry, including cleaning and repointing, should require a certificate of appropriateness. The proposed design guidelines to be used are the Secretary of the Interior standards. Number 6 is the relationship of the nominated landmark or historic district to the ongoing effort of the commission to identify and nominate all potential areas and structures that meet the criteria for designation. And a primary goal of the Historic Resource Commission is to build a register of properties which show the growth of Lawrence since its inception. The nomination of this property is another step toward registering a wide variety of historic properties which together present a visual history of Lawrence's past. The goal of the Lawrence Register of Historic Places is to represent all socioeconomic strata, residences, businesses, and industries which illustrate the diversity that has been prevalent in Lawrence since its inception. Go back through the pictures because they're so great. So staff is recommending that the Historic Resources Commission adopt Resolution 2023-02, recommending to the City Commission the landmark nomination of the Stone Pier of the historic Kansas River Bridge under criteria 1 and 2 of Section 22-403. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Lynn. That was a very thorough and compelling report. Any questions for
Yeah,
Zollner?
this is Commissioner Johnson. I just have a question about, since we're looking at connecting the Lawrence Loop through this area, does this have any impact on future structures or things that might be done to have the trail go under the bridge and make those connections?
It would, those types of improvements would get reviewed for their impact on the pier. Only significant alterations like demolition or new construction would come to the Historic Resources Commission, but anything that has the possibility of impact on the stone pier would get reviewed.
Okay, thank you.
Would any members of the public like to make comment about this item?
Yes, my name is Kerry Altenbernd, and I'm the person that put together this nomination. We got here because putting the lynching marker where it was, we specifically did that because you could see the stone bridge. The city removed some vegetation that blocked it because it's such an important part of the story. And we were concerned that the bridge is slowly deteriorating, or the pier is slowly deteriorating. So I actually asked Lynn, what's the best way to go about this? And she said, well, get it on the register first. So that's what we're doing. The city owns it, and so the city's responsible for maintaining it. But they really haven't done that much over the years. They kept it from falling in the river in '94. But aside from that, and nothing has been done, and it needs to be done because it is in fair shape, but it will continue to deteriorate if it's not taken care of. It's been patched at some time with Portland cement, and that's not good for stone structures. So there will be a lot of work needing to be done in the future, but this is the first step. And I hope you look kindly, favorably on this, and add it and suggest or recommend to the City Commission that it be put on the Lawrence Register. Thank you.
Thank you. Avery, do we have anyone on Zoom? I'm not seeing anyone.
Does not look like it. Nope.
With that, I'd close the public comment and any discussion amongst the board. I'll just speak my mind that it seems like a slam dunk in favor. With that, I would move, hearing no other comment, to find that the Stone Pier of the historic Kansas River Bridge meets the criteria for listing in the Lawrence Register of Historic Places, and to forward the application with the required report in Chapter 22, Section 22-403, to the City Commission with a recommendation for listing of the property.
Commissioner Klein seconds.
We have a motion and a second. I'll go through roll call on Zoom. Commissioner Hawley votes aye. Commissioner Klein.
Commissioner Klein, aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Commissioner Johnson, aye.
Commissioner Ezell.
Commissioner Ezell, aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Next item, going under Section E. Good luck with the project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Miscellaneous items, adopt the 2024 HRC calendar. I'm sure we've all had a chance to review, but Lynn or Avery, any comments?
The meetings stay on the third Thursday of the month, and the application deadline is on the Monday at 3 p.m. Usually, I think it's about 6 weeks before the meeting.
Commissioner Klein moves approval of the calendar for this and next year, the remainder of this year and next year, and a couple of months into 2025, as I recall.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein. We have a motion. Any seconds?
Commissioner Johnson, second.
We have a motion from Commissioner Klein and a second from Commissioner Johnson. We'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Hawley votes aye. Commissioner Klein.
Commissioner Klein, aye.
Commissioner Johnson.
Commissioner Johnson, aye.
Commissioner Ezell.
Commissioner Ezell, aye.
Commissioner Meyer.
Aye.
Once again, the ayes have it. Lynn, do we have any other items not on here that we need to review?
Staff has no other miscellaneous items for review.
Hearing no other items, we are adjourned. See you all next time.